Hey, what is going on? Yeah, it's another Saturday in the Auburn sphere, as the kids say. And the Auburn Tigers are victorious once again, this time over the Mississippi State Bulldogs by a final score of 78-63 in a game that was, a little more challenging than I thought it would be at times. It seemed like there were a lot of situations, a lot of junctures in that game where, let's say, Auburn was up, 17 at half. And played great going into halftime. Chaney hits the three. You're like, okay, they're going to blow this game out. There was a period there, 7 or 8 minutes into the game where Auburn was about to run them out of the gym, and Chris Jans called a timeout, which I thought was really smart. A lot of coaches don't mind calling. Wait, I don't understand. Henry texted me, and I'm trying to figure out what he said. Oh, okay. Just keep an eye on Henry. He's out there. He's talking to the number one player in the country who's here, AJ DeBasanta. And, yeah, it's a big deal. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. I get a little distracted sometimes. I thought at a few junctures there in the first half, Auburn's going to blow them out. Get into the second half. Auburn, for another game, kind of comes out slow to open the second half. And it gets a little tighter. I think at one point it got down to like 8-ish. And then I think Denver hit a three. Janai hit a big three there at the top. And they found ways to just kind of push that thing back out. That was the most encouraging thing about this. I wrote about this in the big game wrap that's on the front of auburnsports.com right now. But the fact that Auburn is playing a team that doesn't match up with Auburn well. Auburn, to me, is kind of a finesse team. They like to get out in transition. And Mississippi State is a team that likes to punch you, fight you, scrap you. And I mean in a relatively legal way. They're not dirty, but they are very, very physical with you. And it's not a style of play that Auburn loves. It does not fit Auburn very well. So they paid the price in Starkville with their inability to adjust to that. And in this game, Auburn adjusted and tightened up and toughened up. And I thought this is a very important game for Auburn. When you get into March Madness, you're going to be playing some ball clubs, maybe in the first few rounds particularly, that are going to be very physical teams. Like James Madison, like UCF. They're lurking out there. Those teams are going to be in the league, in the big dance. And those are the kinds of teams you may end up fighting, and you've got to be able to win a game like this. Auburn showed tonight that they can win a game like this. And I think that's a very good thing. Auburn ended up pushing that thing out a little bit at the end and got a 15-point cushion. And a good win for Auburn to get them off the schneid a little bit after that loss at Tennessee. And then that keeps Auburn very much in contention for a bye in the SEC tournament. South Carolina was able, that was a game where, Florida at South Carolina earlier. That was a game where Auburn's probably happy with either outcome, but I think Florida getting quelled a little bit in that one. Again, South Carolina won that, came back from 10 points down with about 10 minutes to go and won that game by like 8-ish. That kind of knocks Florida down a rung, and it probably helps Auburn get another half step ahead of them. So that's probably a good thing. Let's get over to our main page here. And we got some super chats coming through from some of our superstars. Feel like a stranger jumps in. Word up, Ward Amigo, much love, Drainers, Swoogans and Tates, especially Mama Tate. Old Denby was fantastic. Fantastisch, as our German friends say. Neil Jones checking in. Fresh off his trip to Miami. He was stateside the last week or so. Did not have an opportunity to get down. I have never actually gotten down as far as Miami in my life. Orlando, no, that's not true. Fort Pierce would be the furthest I've ever gotten down that way. Glad to have you on the show, sir. And he's one of our rare Auburn fans that lives over there in Europe. He's in Scotland. Glad you got home safe, brother. I feel like a stranger. Thank you for your mention of my mom. She's doing really good, actually. And then your mention of Denver was prescient insofar as Denver is really coming on, guys. And these people on the bunker who want to say, oh, he's Zep Jasper 2.0. Get the fuck out of here, man. That guy's had double-digit games in 4 of the last 6. Zep didn't have a double-digit game last year. So, anywho. Anthony says, JG, your boy Aiden took one damn shot today. Yeah, it's gotten to be where you're just trying to get one of the point guards to have a good game, right? Today it was definitely Trey. Had the better game for sure. He was hitting some of those mid-range J's. And I wasn't AU Taxman. I wasn't trying to say he was the only one. I was saying he's one of our few. That's all I'm saying. And I appreciate you too, bro. I'm actually drinking a little bit tonight. Cassidy P jumping in, an absolute legend, and his legend continues to grow day by day. The bourbon event we're going to have in Atlanta on the 4th of April is largely due to Cassidy P's hard work, mostly in an anonymous way right now, but you will know it when we get there. Howdy, Swoogans. Anyone else think Chris Jans resembles an unemployed yet studious Ted Cruz? Do we have a laugh for that? Yeah, we do. Oh, yeah, we do. We got to turn up the sound effects. Hey, where's that? Guys, you know we're live. These interns today, I don't know. You can't get them to do anything. It's crazy. Appreciate you, Cassidy P, and you deserve better. You better laugh than that. In fact, we're going to redo the laugh just because some people can't get their shit straight. There it is. Blake R jumps in with a super chat. Our czar from the East Coast. He's always so supportive, both here and on our bourbon show that we do on Thursday nights, which was absolutely off the chain. Unbelievable. I actually was crying on the air from laughter. Somebody named Norman finished off a great joke that D. Lucky had actually put his foot down and made, and man, it was funny as hell. Anyway, Blake, appreciate you being here. Says, JGT, can't stay long tonight, but I am going to drop a super chat and say, War Damn Eagle, cheers, fellow drainers. We love Blake R. He's one of the most popular drainers we've got, and we sure do appreciate him. Cassidy P mentions to Neil, who's back home in Scotland, I'm working on a bottle of Eagle Rare myself. It helps as I go through picks for the John Battaglia, or Battaglia, as we called him, stakes horse race this evening. Is that in Cincinnati, Cassie? I know there's races to go today. I just haven't been able to keep up, and I need to. I know Kingsbarn's won today. He has not a Derby horse at this point, but I was happy to see him win. A-Taxman says he's drinking Barrel 35 tonight. I love Barrel. My wife does not. So Solo Tigre, my problem is that one of my favorite soccer players is Paulo Dybala, spelled D-Y-B-A-L-A, and every time I see Dybala, I don't even know how to say his name. We'll just call him AJ. Every time I see his name, I keep wanting to say Dybala, and then I can't finish it right. I'm sorry, bro. Michael C says, huge win and a better show. I appreciate you. Appreciate it. That's what I like to hear. Thank you. Turfway. Cassidy P, thank you for saying Turfway. I would never have figured that out. I've driven by it many times on my way up to Kings Island from Lexington, but we never actually went there. Ravin jumps in, one of our absolute legends. We love Ravin from top to bottom, from head to toe, from where he lives, which I will not divulge, to where I live, where I will not divulge, but I do live in Montgomery. You guys know that. Undefeated in March, the Auburn Tigers. Got to keep it going. War Damn Eagle. We'll give an applause for that. The Auburn Tigers, of course, 1-0. Lossless in March so far. I may end up being lossless in March for a minute. At Missouri on Tuesday this coming week. An 8 o'clock tip on Tuesday. And then Georgia in the regular season finale next weekend at 5:30. I got to turn this TV off. I can't do this. I know that certain people can multitask, but I cannot. I like to focus fully on the drain. Even when I have these interns that are just keep dropping the biscuit over here. I don't know what the deal is. Cassidy P says, Kings Island. Gotta love them wooden giants. I sure do. It's our favorite amusement park, home of the Beast, of course, which was at the time when I was riding it a lot, was the longest wooden roller coaster in the world. I don't know if it's been eclipsed now. I also had an opportunity to ride the Son of Beast, which has now been dismantled because it was too dangerous. But at the time, it was the only wooden roller coaster in the world that had a loop. That was exciting. Solo Tigre. Sorry about the mispronunciation, bro. I'm usually pretty good about that, but I'm bad at this one. Whale Driver also jumps in with a super chat to say, Ward Amigo, what do you think our SEC tournament seed will be? I am thinking 4, could be 3. Could be 3. I think Tennessee and Alabama are probably going to get away from Auburn a little bit, but that leaves Auburn, Kentucky, and South Carolina to fuss over those last couple spots for the bye anyway. And I love Auburn's situation with at Missouri and Georgia. You guys know I'm nervous about the game at Missouri. I know they've been terrible this year. They're winless in SEC play, and I think I like to come up with this mythical person, Bobby Joe, who lives in Duquesne, Iowa. He doesn't give a shit about. He thinks Auburn's going to crush Missouri, and they may very well do that. But I'm just saying, senior night. It's been a horrendously bad season for them. they're going to have a lot of pent-up aggression that they're going to want to get out. And are they going to be good enough? Probably not. And probably Auburn wins that game by 15, but I'm not taking anything for granted at this point, okay? Absolutely no way. Feel Like a Stranger says AJ Dynasty Baby. We'll take that. Let's just call him AJ Dynasty. Will that work? Let's do that one, yeah. Yes, Chip says Denver is coming around. Need him to get hot for March. He has been great. 9 of 17 from long range in his last 4 games now. So that's a little better than 50%, and you will take that. We've been waiting a long time for Denver Jones to emerge as this shooting threat that we all thought that he was going to be right out of the box. Maybe this is the time. Maybe he's there. Maybe he is going to be this guy now. And if he is, that's a huge boost for the Auburn Tigers. I also thought it was significant in the postgame, BP talking about how he needs to get Janai more shots. Janai was 1 of 2 from three-point range, and I know he's the center and he's not superiorly athletic. Is that a word? It is now. But he is a tremendous three-point shooter. He has gotten really good, guys, and I know we all watch him shoot and we all know he hits, but I don't necessarily think that we realize that he's shooting 45% from 3 in SEC play. He's the 5th most accurate three-point shooter in the conference, regardless of size. And they got to keep giving him good opportunities from three-point range. It changes the game. It changes the way that you defend Auburn when they're 6'10" or 6'11" or 6'9", whatever he is. Center can just jump out, and he's a real threat from the three-point range, three-point line. It's a problem. It changes what you want to do defensively. Sam H., one of our absolute channel legends, there is no doubt in this, and he has been for a long, long time, says, hey, JG, sorry I've missed the last few streams. We have missed you, Sam, but I'm glad you're back, brother. Me and the family have been dealing with a sickness. Solid. They're solid, pretty good. Solid win today. Love seeing Denby shoot. He's been so good. Raven, appreciate you, Sam. Thank you. And I'm glad you're feeling better. I guess good enough to be on the stream. And I hope your whole family's feeling a lot better, brother. Let's see. Oh, Raven says, we can't underestimate Chaney Johnson from 3. Did he hit 2 tonight? He sure did. Good eye there, brother. Chaney finished. I tell you what, let's just bounce over to our box score page, and I can just look at it without having to interrupt anything. Chaney goes for what? Did he have 10 today? Oh, he had 8 on 3 of 4 shooting, 2 of 2 from 3, 2 boards, 2 assists, 1 turnover, 1 block. So that's a pretty solid outing. I mean, he has a plus-minus of 1, but when you're looking at just one game, I'm not sure plus-minus really tells you that much. But he's been good. He's been, I think, stepping it up since Jalen got hurt, and then, Jalen's back now, obviously, but he's still playing at a pretty high level, or a higher level, I would say, from where he was. Let's take a look at his... I picked the wrong player. Dylan had a nice game today too. Kind of a more of a traditional game for him. He's not a big scorer, but he'll do a lot of other things for you. Chaney's last 3 games, he had 16 against Georgia, 5 against Tennessee, but he only took 4 shots. And then tonight, 8 points on 1 of 2 shooting. That's efficiency right there. By the way, Jalen, I think he had an interesting line today. I mean, Jalen goes 1 of 3 from the floor, but has 10 points because he goes 8 of 8 at the free throw line. Not particularly assertive tonight, and I thought it would be a game where Jalen would be a bigger player in this game because of the way that Mississippi State wants to play you half court, wants you to play half court, I should say. And so I thought it would be an opportunity for him to be more of a major part of the offense, part of the scoring enterprise. But they didn't really need to do that. Janai was plenty good, and then Denver was kind of cutting him up from long range, and Chaney too. So I don't know. Didn't need him as much today. Whale Driver makes a good point. He says, I didn't think Holloway played bad, though. He just didn't force bad shots, which is a positive. Well said, well said. I just thought he'd have more of an effect on the game, But I agree. He was not like a walking calamity. He had a bad turnover in the first half that resulted in a layup. And I know he was frustrated, and he gets in his head about stuff like that. He gets down very easily because he wants to be great. He's been great for so much of his life. And, this is his first real, I guess you'd call it a rough stretch that he's had in his career, And he's learning. He's a freshman. Canoeman in the house. So glad to see you, brother. And Canoeman did say that it was an incredible blend on Thursday night. I don't think I've ever cried on the air before from laughter. we were talking about that hoax where the lady put the finger in the chili and claimed, it was a Wendy's chili and said, "Oh my God, there was a finger in my chili," and it turned out to be a hoax. Well, it was an actual finger, but it was an inside job. The girl had done it herself. It wasn't her finger, but she had acquired a finger. And actually, her husband had. Blake, I always love the positivity Blake has. Much love and many blessings, Auburn family. Solid win. Nice to see Jalen play hard and hope Berman is okay, Warren and Meagle. We love the positivity, Blake, and thanks for being here, brother. No word yet on Leor. It seemed like in the postgame, BP was a little optimistic about it because he had mentioned, as Blake did, that Leor was having a nice little game, 5 points on two of three shooting, and just was kind of being a badger on defense. It's been kind of interesting to see him emerge as, a solid defender the last two games anyway. And then he goes down with that non-contact injury to his knee, and it was a bummer. Leor's been playing some really good basketball lately for him, as the 11th guy. Not a superstar by any means, but that's not really his role. He's a guitar maker, guys. Moonlight Grams is here. We love Moonlight Grams. Let's give him an applause just for being here. Says, I still got to join the Bourbon Blend, so you can certainly subscribe any time of day. You Gucci. Cass, appreciate you, bro. Cassidy says, Kings Island, gotta love them wooden giants. I sure did. Golly, how much do I miss those? Let's see. AU Taxman says, so to Bucky Ball. Big time ups to Bucky, the coach at Samford, for an undefeated home season. Bruce better not poach any of our players. I love it. Cassidy P jumps in, says, damn well expecting undefeated in March just to go all the way. Could Bruce's 10 or 11-man rotation have been a ploy to save postseason gas in the tank for CBM Denver? And J. Will has also allowed individuals to develop. That's a good point there, Cassidy P. Yeah, I think part of it could be load management. It could be. But I think it's more the second part there about allowing individuals to develop, and then you can, if you're playing 11, I got to wonder about Leor at this point, but you know what I mean. They've got two full lineups, A and B, or 1 and 1A, however you want to look at it. And now in a tough game, he can pick and choose. Okay, KD's having a great game. CBM's not. Denver's been hot. We can flip and flop, where he wasn't doing that before. So I think he's able to mix and match better. It hasn't really been a strength of BP through the years, in my opinion, was kind of emphasizing the players that are having a good night that night. It seems like he kind of comes into games with preconceived ideas about what each person's role will be, and that's the way it goes that night, and he doesn't necessarily adjust a lot. But I feel like we've seen more of that lately in the last month, maybe 3 weeks. Let's see. Remnant said Denver needs to practice finishing at the rim, less than 50% at the rim. I didn't know that. That is definitely an area of needs to improve right there. Cleveland Brown with a super chat says, stay dehydrated, JG, Ward M. Eagle. I will. I have BioLite here, which works against dehydration, cramps, fatigue, upset stomach, overindulgence, and flatulence. So be sure to keep that handy if you're out drinking. By the way, those of you who don't know, I've been having a little bit of a heart issue lately, so I haven't been drinking hardly at all, but I am drinking this barrel Ambarana finish tonight, which is one of my favorites. So I'm not going to drink much. I might as well drink the stuff I really enjoy. This has a really sweet finish to it that no other bourbon that I have has quite the same finish to me. It really actually like candy. So I just felt like sipping on that a little bit. I'm not drinking much. Yum, yum. Locked On mentioned Moonlight Graham says, where in the world would she get a finger? She sourced the finger from one of her husband's friends who had actually lost a finger in an industrial accident and kept the finger. I have a lot of questions. I have a lot of follow-up questions. I know you do too. But anyway, that was their plan. We're going to borrow this guy's finger. We're going to put it in the chili. We're going to claim foul. And then we're going to beat Wendy's for a lot of money. I don't know. Anywho. Locked On is fired up about the Orange Beach party that we're having. That is going to be on the 13th of April. That's going to be in Orange Beach, Alabama, on the campus of Chip Chip's weekend retreat area. Same place we were at last year. Chip will give more details as the date gets closer. But that is Cassidy P. I kept thinking about that. Bunny got the toe, right? She sourced the toe in Big Lebowski. Next time, Lebowski, we cut off your Johnson. Johnson? Yeah, this will be our second annual Orange Beach Throwdown, and we had a great one last year. A lot of fun stuff going on, particularly number 19 taking a long bourbon nap. You want a finger? I can get you a finger by 9 o'clock. Howard Sobchak said, no. Sobchak. Walter Sobchak. Yes. I can get you a finger by 9. That's what he said in the diner, wasn't it? The poor woman. CC Simon says, such a weird fanboy experience you all have here. I don't know what that means. Please elaborate, bro. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I'd be curious to see what you mean by that. Solo Tigre says, I'm about to get into some tequila and drown some sorrows. Ms. Tigre is down bad after her closest cousin's 2-year-old was killed in a dog attack yesterday. Oh, my God. I'm sorry to hear that, brother. I understand why she would be down after that. Man, that's tough. We'll be thinking about her for sure and her cousin's kid, excuse me. Sorry to hear that, brother. Yeah, Cece, I want to hear more about that. Yeah. As for back to the game, again, a good point earlier on Aiden Holloway. Maybe I was a little harsh on him because he wasn't awful. He was just kind of playing. Statistically, you look at that, 21 minutes, 0 points, 1 assist, and 1 turnover. It's like, but yeah, competent for sure. And then KD was a little slow getting in, right? They kind of skipped over him on the first shift when he normally would jump in there, and so there was concern that maybe either he was hurt or suspended, but he did pop in there. Ended up playing 9 minutes. My guess is that he wasn't feeling well because he was practicing this week, so he was fine then. Let's see, just kind of work our way through. Aiden, probably give him C tonight. He did execute well. Hey, a Mobile alum. She is in the house here at the chat. We appreciate her as always. She will definitely be part of our shindig down in the Orange Beach compound. Chip's Orange Beach compound. Aiden, let's see, C-, Jalen, I don't know, B maybe. Yeah, I still think we should get more rebounds from a power forward, but to get 10 points on just 3 shots is pretty amazing. Janai, as typical, I would give him an A. Chad, there was a time when I thought he was bottoming out of this game, particularly when he got the technical foul for throwing the ball at Tolu Smith, which is silly. And it came at a time when Mississippi State was making one of its pushes again. So I thought the timing was really bad. But he made a great save later that got the ball to Jalen, who I think got fouled when he was trying to go up, so that was a 2-point plus. And then he hit a big 3 late, and it just seemed like he got himself back into good graces. It's Chad. He's a very emotional player. A lot of times it's a good thing for him. And Katie's the same way. Katie's, over time, learned to kind of channel that energy into positive pursuits. And I think Chad is, he's kind of new to the Auburn system, new to the BP's system, BP's world, the way BP does things. But I think he turned it around a little bit tonight. So I would give him a B. I thought he was a menace on defense. Denver, I thought, was terrific. I'd give him an A. Gives you 15 points on 5 of 11 shooting, 3 of 5 from 3, and again, he's 9 of 17 in his last 4 games from long range, so he's heating up for sure. 15 points, 4 boards, 2 steals, and most significantly, I mean, he was extremely active defensively. Now, he spent a lot of time on Hubbard, who hit him pretty good with 23 points, but I mean, the dude was just hitting some threes, man. I mean, he's a good player, and he hit threes. I thought the defensive effort was good. Auburn really, on the perimeter, was pushing out, extended their defense a little further, which means Denver, KD, Aiden, Trey, it's a little tougher on them because they've got to be careful. When you take 3 steps further out, you're potentially causing more trouble for MSU, which I think they did. MSU loves cutters. They love backdoor cuts and various cutting concepts, but the best way to stop that is pressure the ball so that they don't see the cuts, or they have a hard time identifying the cuts because they're never comfortable. That's where Denver and Trey and Aiden came into play today, and I thought Auburn really extended well, and forced Mississippi State's guards, ball handlers, into just more hasty decisions, which I think eliminated that part of their game. Now, Hubbard still had a terrific night, but it took Mississippi State out of what they like to do on the attacking end for sure. Cassidy P says that CBM is merely a couple years behind the KD curve. That's true. He's a couple years behind. I mean, Chad's a more talented player, I think, than KD, but nonetheless, I understand what you're saying from a psychological perspective and a behavioral perspective. I know what you're talking about. I wish that CBM had been here longer because I think this is a great place for him. Neil J is going to bounce. Our Welsh friend who lives in Scotland, checking out for the night, folks. It's gone midnight here. And Mrs. Jones says she can't control herself lying in bed next to me and listening to Jay's voice. Amanda. Hope to see you guys before too long, honestly. I'd love for y'all to come out with us this summer, but it's probably not going to happen. Maybe in the next summer after that, we can do something. Get you back with our crew of Americans. We need to have a name with our group. A lot of fun. Anyway, good night, Neil. Good night, Amanda. Best of luck, you two. Blake says, I love this team with the defense and the depth for the tourneys, but guard play must improve. I agree completely. They're going to need more consistency from the guard spots. It's something that concerns me, I guess you could say. I don't sit around worrying about Auburn or anything, but if they're going to be great in what did I say, September? I did that the other night too. If they're going to be great in March Madness, they've got to be better at the point guard spot. It's just going to have to happen. CC Simon, we asked him in a friendly way to kind of elaborate on what he meant by the fanboy experience, and then his answer is bizarre. Y'all enjoy and peace out. All right, CC. Good luck tonight, bro. Hope it goes well. I hope it goes well for me too, because I'm going to be drinking for really the first time since I had my heart issue. But fuck it. I mean, you only live once, right? Well, sometimes you'll live more than once, but you know what I mean. Let me get back to our main page here. Glennis is asking, is there a path towards seeing Chaney and Jay Will on the floor together? Not normally. Not with Jay Will healthy, no. I don't think so. Those guys are kind of mutually exclusive, right? You need both of those players to handle the four, and so playing them both at four would mean that you're going to have to take Janai and Dylan off the floor, which would be a little odd. Considering both of them have been playing pretty good ball lately. I don't know. I like the idea, though, because it gives you two big dudes that can really shoot. I mean, Chaney's been picking it up. 2 for 2 tonight. And, of course, Jalen's always good. So, I mean, I guess if you're going like max shooting, you could consider that. But the way Janai has become such a three-point shooter, I don't think Chaney would be an upgrade there. So if you were going max shooting, like you were down and you just wanted to shoot your way back into a game, you know, Janai is a 44 or 45% long-range shooter. Then you got Jalen at 4, CBM at 3, Denver at 2, and I guess Trey at point. And there's your best three-point shooting lineup. There's no doubt. Chris M. jumps in, number 19, says, what up, y'all? Sorry I'm late. We missed you, bro. Glennis, I don't think so, man. Talking about 3, Chaney just doesn't work at 3 for me. I mean, I guess you could put Jalen there. I mean, you could. I think he could hang defensively there against most teams, unless it was a team that had like their own little personal AJ Dybala playing there, because he's a mess, but because he's really good. But I don't see the advantage there. Maybe if Chad got hurt or something, but Chad's just such a plus at the wing spot. I don't know. BP is just so ironclad about his rotations. You know, he doesn't like messing around very much. He doesn't experiment much. I mean, the whole season, he's really only experimented one time, and that was to play Denver at 1, and that was because Aiden was struggling so much and Trey was struggling. He was like, God, at some point we got to get something, you know. I don't know. Blake out of nowhere just says the black market cadaver market is strong, 10 fingers per. We'll just give it a laugh. I don't know. Why not? But we also had to give you one of these.
I'm Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC.
Let's see. Chris M asks, did we talk at all about the chippiness at the refs today? No, we didn't. No, I didn't. It seemed like Chad was fussing a lot, but he fusses a lot. And then no, I didn't notice anything from the other side. So short answer, no. Tell me more. I'm interested to see what you have to say about this. Janai, of course, again, going down the stats of note there on the right side of the screen. Janai had another solid game. Didn't really stand out to me per se, but I mean, he finishes with 17 points. I think he had 6 boards, so no concerns there. Denver, another good one. That's double figures in 4 of his last 6 now. 15 points today. I think he was 3 of 5 from 3-point range. Jalen with 12 points. I think he actually scored 10. Why did I have 12 on there? What an idiot. I'll get that changed. I don't know these interns, man. Nah, it's actually me. Auburn finishes with 19 assists and 10 turnovers, which is better than the other game. The Tennessee game, they had 16 turnovers total, 10 in the first half. So that's better. I still kind of expect Auburn to be in single-digit turnovers, but 19 and 10, you'll take that. Auburn led for 39 minutes and 31 seconds, and the other 29 seconds they were tied, 0-0. So that's pretty dominating. You know, when Sonny said after the game, he was like, well, that was pretty much comprehensive ass whooping, or didn't say ass, he said it was comprehensive whooping. I thought, was it really? And then you start looking at it and thinking about it, you're like, yeah, it kind of was. I mean, when you lead for 39 minutes and 31 seconds, it's pretty, that says something about the game. 9 blocks for Auburn, which is more than normal. And then Auburn was plus 13 bench scoring. It was actually double. It was 26-13. So that's an area where Auburn is usually ahead, right? They're usually they got a very good bench. Auburn's got a lot of depth. They play 11 pretty much all the time. And with Lior out, you just hope that's not a bad injury. He looked really, really frustrated, though, like he knew something. In a way that Jalen, when he went down in the Kentucky game, did not freak out. Now, it's 2 different guys. But I don't think of Lior as a real demonstrative dude. So, anywho, we'll kind of see how that goes. It's going to take a little while. Chris M. elaborating on his question about the chippiness. Broom was also a little aghast at what was being called for versus what was being done to him, it seemed. Yeah, I remember he had a few drives or just plays near the bucket in the first half in particular where he felt like he had been fouled. But to me, that was just kind of like at a level that's normal for him. Like he complains about stuff like that. To me, it's just all fine. It's part of the game. It's part of the gamesmanship and trying to lean in and try to get some calls later in the game. I appreciate the effort on both sides. And Chris M. also asked any further news on the Hammer. I have not gotten anything yet. Our guys in the arena, which tonight was Stoltze and Henri, if they say anything or tell me anything, I will let you know. But BP said after the game he wasn't sure, but he seemed kind of optimistic, Chris, because he said something along the lines of, yeah, well, we play 11 guys, and we'll just kind of see what happens with Lior. Like, he seemed like he was okay. Like, he thought Lior might be okay, but he didn't say that. I was inferring it. Cassidy P jumps in and says, our team has flair. How many pieces of flair do you think? How many? If you want to do the absolute minimum, that's okay, too. I'm just kidding. That's from Office Space. Our team has flair. That shows up with officials. It happens. As a Pistons fan, oh, my God. I can embrace that a little easier. Wow. My man, a Pistons fan. That is tough. That is a tough way to go right now, my G. I mean, I felt bad for watching the Thunder 2 years ago when they were getting beat up all the time. I was like, this sucks. But they're good now. Well, pretty good. They lost to Spurs the other night. I don't know how. But Pistons, jeez Louise. Been down a long time. I hope it comes back for you. I really do. Whale Driver also said, got to keep our composure. That is absolutely true. I think CBM lost it a little bit tonight. Something that you don't see KD do that anymore. He used to, but you don't see him do that as much anymore. And it's nice to see him mature that way. Really, really good. TPB. This is a nice Office Space reference. Thank you, sir. One of the great movies of the 90s. One that I enjoy a whole lot. I mean, pretty much every single day there's some kind of an Office Space reference that goes through my head. Cassidy Pieces were in purgatory talking about the Pistons until some major front office changes. I thought, yeah. Bottom line is, yeah. Whale Driver says, LOL, the Rasheed Wallace brawl in the 2000s, the Malice at the Palace. Wasn't Ron Artest in there too? Hell yeah, he was. Of course. That is the most on-brand situation there ever, to have Rasheed Wallace and Ron Artest. And then Jermaine O'Neal was in that bad boy too. Got some fighters. Everybody was kung fu fighting. That was good stuff. Let me take a look. We have not discussed. We discussed about it kind of peripherally. But a SEC basketball standings. I want to take a look at this because we got Alabama and Tennessee going at it tonight. So that's going to be an interesting one. Let me pull this over so we can discuss. Oh, doggone it. There's something on the SEC site that pisses my computer off. There's an ad that it keeps trying to kill. And I don't know why. But every time I come over here, it's the same basic thing. Let me move over here to our bigger space. And take a look at the latest standings as they are right this moment. Again, Tennessee and Alabama are playing tonight, so that's going to change things a little bit as we move forward. But Auburn in that top 4 spot right now. 1 game behind South Carolina and 1.5, I guess, behind Tennessee and Alabama, although somebody will pull a little closer. And Auburn even with Kentucky. I would be curious to see what Kentucky's got. Auburn's got a nice finish here. Let's see what UK still got to deal with. UK has got Vanderbilt at UK, and then UK at Tennessee in the season finale. So that's going to be a toughie. Tennessee's got, speaking of tough games, Tennessee's got some nasty ones because Kentucky's playing much better right now, and then they got to play Alabama tonight. So they're having to deal with some shit. And Auburn was just there and gave them a good push. Let's take a look and see what Alabama's got left. They've got at Florida, and then the Fighting Musses are going to be at Alabama in the season finale. So you think they could, it's either 1-1 or 2-0 there. And then South Carolina, they've still got Tennessee's coming to their place, and they've got to go to Mississippi State. So that's 2 tough ones right there. I think Auburn could get back in there. Lamont's been coaching his ass off this year, though. It's been terrific. Florida, for what it's worth, they've got Alabama coming into the Arena on Wednesday, and then at Vanderbilt to close. I still like Auburn's shot here. Auburn's got a really nice shot at getting one of those top 4 seeds. As long as they handle their business. Got to win at Missouri. I actually feel better about the Georgia game. Georgia's a better team than Missouri, but I feel better about the Georgia game than I do the Missouri game. I just don't like the idea of going there. TPB says UF could easily beat the Turds. They're playing well. They are. Florida's playing much better basketball the second half of the season, although they lost today at South Carolina. It was a game they could have, should have won. I mean, they were up 10 somewhat late in that game. Yeah, Blake says in the past few games, Janai has hit some very timely three-pointers at critical moments in the game. He sure has. And again, he's been a terrific three-point shooter in conference season this year. I mean, really, really good, 45%. I mean, that's elite, particularly for a big man center. You know, now, he's not some little center with an asterisk. He's a real man down there, and he can pull out and shoot that three. And I think it certainly helps his professional prospects. I still wonder if his lack of athleticism is going to bite him in the butt when it comes time for NBA teams to really take serious stock of him. But you can't argue with the numbers. Cassidy Pieces is tough to win in the O-Dome. Yeah, you know. Whale Driver says, I think we could get a 2 if UT wins tonight. That would be terrific. Yeah, Tennessee beats Alabama, and then Alabama's still got to go to Florida. I mean, they could lose ground quickly, but Alabama's pretty freaking good. So, I don't know. 5-4 on the road, though. That's something to kind of keep an eye on. The team that you don't want to play right now is probably LSU. They've really been playing much, much, much better lately. I mean, I know they're middle of the conference. It's not something that Auburn's worried about, but I'm saying if that comes up again in Nashville, that's a team you don't really want to mess with right now. I mean, Texas A&M's sliding. Ole Miss is sliding. Mississippi State's pretty good, but they just got knocked out by Auburn. Florida's definitely on the up, but lost today. Kentucky's been playing better. Auburn's been playing pretty good all season. Same with South Carolina, same with Alabama, same with Tennessee. So, I don't know. Glennis asks, if Alabama and Auburn somehow tie, who gets the higher seed? I don't know the answer to that, brother. I should know, but I don't. We have to look into that. I have to read up on that one. I'm not sure. Since they split the season. I think that the team who can get their lights working correctly would be the team that should get the higher seed, in my opinion, and that would be the Auburn Tigers. Maybe Auburn could send some engineers over there to Alabama and help them fix their shit. I'm just throwing up ideas. I don't know. Auburn's got a lot of great engineers that have graduated in the last 25 years, maybe longer, and just go over there and just help them a little bit. Maybe Alabama needs some help. We'll see. Cassidy P says, I don't care about seed in the SEC tournament. I care much more about matchup. The 6-seed matchup they showed for us during the game was favorable despite the extra game. Are you talking in like riddles there? Who was it? I don't know who that would be. If Auburn were to go, I can't even do this. I have to look at the bracket, try to figure that out. Blake noticed that Lior was pissed. Yeah, he really looked frustrated, like he knew that his injury was a problem. And that's not good. Not good at all. Chip says, I just don't see. Oh, yeah, I got the chats right there in front of you guys. I just don't see how Bama is doing this well. They aren't any better than Auburn. They've had good teams shat the bed against them a few times. Auburn and Tennessee and Kentucky destroyed them. Yeah, I mean, Mark Price is playing really good, and they've got the three-point shooter. Some of the names get away from me. And the white guy, the transfer, he cooked Auburn in the first game in Tuscaloosa. He was the difference in that game. But I agree. Alabama's pretty good, though. I feel like Auburn's, I mean, God, the one that keeps sticking out to me was the game at Florida. Like, what happened there, man? Like, Auburn just didn't fire. And Alabama doesn't really have those games when they just don't fire. I mean, Auburn beat them bad, but they tend to fire, you know? Whale Driver says, on the bunker, someone claimed we'd get it, meaning the 6th seed, because they went 0-2. Oh, I'm sorry, about Alabama. That Auburn would actually get the better seed again in a tie with Alabama because they went 0-2 against Tennessee and we went 0-1. There's OTAG. What's up, OTAG? How you doing, brother? OTAG's been a great part of our bourbon show on Thursday nights. Glad to have you over here. Patrick P., any spring football practice intel? Hell yeah, man. Have you seen Cam Coleman? He is a physical presence. And he, right away, is the best-looking wide receiver we've seen at Auburn in a minute. He looks amazing. He's really strong, and I think he's even impressed them. I mean, he's a 5-star recruit. He's a top 10 player in the country, so the expectations are very high. But I think he's probably exceeded those expectations right away. He's been really, really good. I think Jaron Thompson, I've heard some good stuff about him, that he's, you know, they haven't really done serious work yet, and they won't until they get back. But folks have been happy with Jaron Thompson. They feel like he's the real deal. Laquan is playing defensive backs, playing with the defensive backs. They like him. Heard that Joe Phillips has been moved over to Buck, which you kind of expected. Chip, Cam Coleman versus Seth Williams. Compare JGT. Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, two really good ones. Seth, to me, we just have to see. Seth is an amazing aerial threat, and I think Cam Coleman will be that as well. My thing on Seth was I didn't think he had the consistency. Seth had kind of a laissez-faire attitude about things just in general. He's a smart kid. Sometimes I thought he was almost too smart. And I'm not going to say that about Cam. Cam's just more of a worker. So my guess is that Cam's going to be a little more consistent because he's always mentally in there, you know? But physically, both of those guys are just made out of marble. They're just exactly physically what you're looking for. I think it's Mobile alum probably. Yeah, wants to know, why are we ahead of Kentucky when we lost them? I don't know. Because those guys are nerds. We don't like them. Auburn has more overall wins. is the reason for that one. Yeah. War Eagle 0008, who I know is a fan of Seth Williams, at least the good parts of Seth Williams. War Eagle family, thanks for the show, JGT. Go Vols. He's pulling for the Vols. He can't ever pull for Alabama, and I understand why. It would take one hell of a situation to pull for Alabama. Although I would do it in certain situations. AU Taxman says, wife really sticking with Thorne or going portal? Oh, by the way, did you see that? I'm trying to think where he was playing before. McLeod, not Jalen McLeod, but Jordan McLeod, the quarterback. Oh, AU Taxman, thanks for that reset there. We really sticking with Thorne or going portal. So remember the bunker hero that everybody wanted to come to Auburn? I think he was the James Madison quarterback last year. Everybody said would come and immediately start. He ended up not getting any good offers, and he ended up at Texas State. He's in the same league. He's at a worse team in the same league is where he ended up. So maybe the bunker doesn't know everything about quarterback assessments. That is not on you, A-Tax, man. I'm not saying that was you. I'm saying there's some other people. This is just JG talking. I am skeptical. He's talking it up. He's saying that, in his press conference on Thursday, he was talking about it's a wide open competition, and Peyton's competing, and Walker's competing, and Hank's competing, and presumably Holden is competing, whatever. I just gotta believe they're gonna consider all options in the portal, in the spring portal window. I gotta believe it. Because, even if you get more mileage out of Peyton, and I think they will. I still don't think he's really good, though. Like, he goes from, being kind of slightly below average to, slightly above average with a unified offensive perspective or paradigm. It was one of the really weird things about last season was that Hugh and Monty were not on the same page, and you think that Hugh would have identified that prior to the Cal game and said, here's how shit's going to go, and it didn't happen. It just kept going and going and going, and it was weird. And that was a disservice to Peyton. I think we would all agree. Nonetheless, OTAG correctly says Hugh is high on Thorne for whatever reason. He says it's his to lose. That is exactly how Hugh will frame it. But I got questions. And I like Peyton just fine. I like him as much as anybody else, but Cassidy P says quarterback one can't possibly be on campus, right? He could be. But I've got to believe they're going to consider all options when it comes to that portal. They've got to. It would be a disservice to Auburn for Hugh to not consider it. And he's already said he's looking for more help on the defensive line and maybe a couple other places. And maybe when he said that, he was thinking quarterback. I don't know. Raven says, I have not seen anything to believe that we can put the ball in Peyton's hands and say, go win us the game. That's not his thing, right? He's not that kind of a player. He's a manager, and he's a guy that you hope that he can play the percentages and let the other guys win the games. And that's part of the problem is because Auburn didn't have the guys, particularly a wide receiver, to win games last year. And I think they will have some guys like that this year. I think the kid from Georgia State has got an opportunity to be helpful. Bryce Kane is already here. I think he'll be helpful. Cam's already here. I think he'll be helpful. And so they've already upgraded bigly at wide receiver. I still think they were really good at tailback last year. You guys may agree with me on that. It may not be a hot take there, but I really like their assortment at tailback, and I still do. War Eagle 0008 says Hugh, unlike Gus, is not so set in his ways that he won't go get the best option. You're so right about that. I really want to write a column about this, about the similarities and differences between Hugh and Gus, because there are a lot of similarities between those two men. But the one area where they really, really differ is where Gus, like you said, gets set in his ways and won't change them. And Hugh is almost, in my opinion, too too far the other way. And he was doing it again the other day in the press conference Thursday where he was like, well, I messed some things up, and I'm going to try to build this roster through high school players. And, I mean, I might be wrong about that, but we'll have to figure it out. And I think that he's not bullshitting you. Like, he really has, maybe not every day, but at least once a week, maybe twice a week, he sits around and thinks about this and goes, man, am I doing the right thing here? Can we actually build this program with high school kids and really just rely on portal just for this guy or that guy and fill holes? Like, to me, that's crazy. Now, I'm much more on the Lane Kiffin bandwagon where we're essentially in free agency here, and you are treating this like you're the Oakland A's or the Pittsburgh Pirates, and the Yankees and the Dodgers are out snatching up free agents. Ole Miss playing heavy in the free agent game, and they've improved their team significantly through that. But Hugh wants to go a different way because it's more comfortable for him to make the connections with families, with kids, and have it, for a couple years at least prior to them coming to Auburn. He doesn't want to do the speed dating thing. And, I mean, on one hand, I get it. It's a more authentic situation. But on the other hand, it's not the best available tactic, in my opinion. Feel Like a Stranger says, write more columns, JG. Thank you for saying that, brother. I want to, I don't know. Cassidy pieces Gus, scattered, covered, smothered, whereas Hugh is Flo's filet. Another difference between those two guys is that Gus doesn't drink at all, and he's just so, like, on topic all the time. He's always, nerdy Gus. Hugh is different. I'm not going to say Hugh's like a big drinker. He's not, but he will drink, and he will kind of let his hair down and be a normal human being sometimes. So those two are different in that way. But they are similar in that they're both paranoid. They both are loyal to almost a fault. They have very similar ideas about offense. Although I think Hugh probably would throw. I think in a perfect world, he would throw the ball a little bit more than Gus would. But with Peyton and those kind of average-ass receivers last year, I don't necessarily think we saw that, Let's see, Wargold 0008 says, I think there's a lot to that, though, talking about the differences and the similarities between Hugh and Gus. That's Hugh's strength, and he's leaning into it, which I almost never think is a bad thing. You're probably talking about just trying to build relationships with kids and to him, it's being genuine. It's about being the person that I say I am, and I'm standing on business, essentially, is what he wants to do. And he's been that way his whole life. He feels like that's the best thing about him, that the things he's going to promise you, he's going to do, and he's not just going to talk it, he's going to actually execute over a course of a long period of time. Whereas you make promises in the portal, you play a guy a year, and you say whatever, and it really, maybe it breaks down to the key differences between Hugh and Lane Kiffin. I mean, those are very different men. Lane is a showman and a very, very, very good offensive mind, probably better than Hugh, honestly. But he's not sentimental, and he's not crazy about being genuine. And Hugh is. Sometimes to his detriment. But come on. Well, we'll see. We're going to find out who the better coach is. I happen to think Lane Kiffin is amazing, but he is certainly building his program in a much different way than Hugh is doing it in his world. I mean, they really couldn't be much different. I mean, Hugh is all the way on the Dabo Sweeney side. He is a Dabo follower, and Lane's completely on the other side. AU Taxman, great statement right here. We got to stop pretending that college football isn't pro football. It is getting very close. They're getting very similar. It's almost like minor league pro football now. I mean, the way it works, and I'm not necessarily against it. I'm all for. It was weird when all this money was being generated and so little of it went to the kids. I thought that was bullshit. And so now we've seen a change there, a big paradigm shift in how kids get compensated. I think it's a much more fair way to do it now. It's the right way to do it. But along with it comes you need more bumpers, like in the like when kids are playing when they're bowling, they got to have the bumpers or else the ball goes in the gutter every single time. And the problem is that we're in an era where the NCAA is as weak as it's ever been. The NCAA has overplayed its hand for generations, and it's finally fucked itself to the point where it can't unfuck itself. And this is a time when college football or college athletics needs a strong governing body, and the NCAA is at its absolute weakest. So that's a bad situation, and I think that's why we will see the NCAA fall apart, and we will see essentially two, giga conferences govern themselves. Whale Driver says the money was going to kids under the table. You're right. And a smaller number of kids, a much smaller percentage, were actually getting money. I do think the percentage of kids that were getting money were getting more for the most part. But there were a fair number of kids. Well, if you think about college athletes as a whole, I mean, I don't know how many kids 10 years ago were actually getting money. 3% maybe? I'm talking about the whole group. I'm talking about track and field, girls field hockey, all that shit. Now it's probably, I don't even know, would it be 80% maybe? Would it be 100% to at least get something? Cassidy P says NCAA equals impotent. You're right about that, bro. Cassidy P did have a super chat spin to go. Let Razor Ramon throw to our studs and let's see. Yeah, in the spring maybe. I don't think we have time to let that play out in the fall. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm not anti-Peyton at all. It's such a long. Auburn's got to be better next year, period. Okay, it's cool to have one solid signing class, one really good signing class. That's great, and he's definitely upgraded the talent. But there has to come a point where the talent turns into W's. The way that Chip thinks is the way I think. Win the fucking games. And at the end of the day, you've won X number of games and you've lost X number of games, and all the other stuff falls to the wayside. He's got to start winning. He knows that. And I would be scared if I were Hugh to put all of my current reputation anyway, in the hands of Razor Ramon. I am that way. War Eagle 0008 says he is anti-Peyton. I can understand that. He is frustrating. Chris M. is watching the softball game. Auburn beat Northwestern earlier today 1-0 on a complete game shutout, or a shutout, as kids would say, from Maddie Penna, as is customary. I believe that was her third or fourth 1-0 victory of the year, and it tells you just how valuable Maddie is. I would argue, Chris may disagree with me, or he may agree, that Maddie is pretty much the only player they've got right now that's ready for prime time, and softball is just kind of a shell of itself. They're going to Missouri next weekend, so we'll kind of see how that goes. But he did have an update, seeing a two-run home run, makes it 4-3 USC Upstate, middle of the third. Auburn, Kanuman super chatting us tonight. We love Kanuman. Very, very supportive. Made some of our shows a year ago happen that would not have happened otherwise, because I didn't know where to broadcast from. Back in the truck with 3 Indian formal outfits. Kanuman lives an interesting life. I'll put it that way. I feel like I have a fun job and a job that has a lot of variance to it. He has even more variance to his job. Kind of jelly. Whale Driver said, presumably as a former Tiger host, you saw things. Yeah. I know there were things going on. There were things going on everywhere. Whale Driver says, got to have a winning record next year. At the absolute minimum. Yes. No doubt. But you think that Alabama game was such a harbinger, like you win that game 98% of the time, right? Or maybe not, maybe higher. They lose that game. But if they win it, maybe they go into that Maryland game and they've got a different attitude about everything and they win that game. Because I still feel like Auburn's better than Maryland. But Maryland won the game fair and square. If they beat Alabama and they beat Maryland, well, then that last season's not a shithouse. And then you come into this year thinking, okay. Chris M. kind of following up on my statement earlier about Maddie Penna. He says Maddie Penna is the most impactful player on any Auburn team. So, yeah, I mean, I think you can make the argument she's the best Auburn pitcher ever. There was a really, really good one named Holly back 15 years ago, I guess. And then Lexi was really good, but she ain't like this. And then Kaylee Carlson was really good. And now Maddie. Chip said Maryland whipped that ass whichever way they wanted. I know. It happened. I was there. Well, I wasn't there, but I was with you guys watching it. And I still don't think Auburn was a terrible team, but they were not ready. They were not ready for that challenge that day. Let's see. Kanuman says, I'm seriously thinking of retiring in a few months, so do not be too jelly. I want to talk to you about this. Raven says, AU did not look very inspired against Maryland. You're right about that. They just didn't look ready to play, and that's on the head coach. War Eagle 0008 says, Thorne, with a month knowing he needed to show he's the guy to prove, hey, we're going into an off season here that's important to me as a player. I've got to put my best foot forward. Played horribly. My response to that would be he was playing in a really weird situation schematically. It was two guys that had slightly different ideas about how to run an offense, trying to coexist, the head coach not putting his foot down and taking control of the situation. And even now I kind of have some questions about what, he said the other day that he's changed all the verbiage to the stuff that he knows that he's comfortable with. I'm talking about Hugh. And I'm sure the stuff that Derek Nix is doing, because he's the offensive coordinator, I'm sure he knows a lot of the same stuff because Hugh kind of taught it to him. I don't know. I still feel like it's kind of murky. Whale Driver also said we'd have played in a better bowl, haven't had Auburn beat Alabama, played in a better bowl and gotten slaughtered. There's some truth to that probably. But maybe they would have been more inspired to play in a better bowl against a better opponent. Do you know what I mean? It's all just babbling. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's like me and Chip, what Chip would say together. It's wins and losses. Get dudes, win games. They've gotten dudes, haven't won a lot of games. And he knows he's got to turn it around, and that's what I like about this coming season. Wow. War Eagle 0008 says, he's a beta. Our quarterback would say, look at this. This is what we're best at, coach, and let's do it. Meaning, why did it take so long to actually sit down and take catalog of what Auburn's good at, what Auburn's bad at, and accentuate the good and negate the bad? I get where you're coming from. I was surprised too, and I kept being surprised because I kept thinking it would happen. Whatever, first game, I mean, they beat UMass, whatever, and then Cal game, you were like, what the frick is going on here? As we get into October, I thought there was going to be like this big paradigm shift, and he was going to seize control of the offense, and it never happened. So I still got questions, and you guys do too, probably. Yeah. As far as basketball goes, I think we've discussed it all, though. 2 games left at Missouri, Georgia at home. I think 2 wins in those 2 games assure Auburn of a top 4 seed. It would straight up just assure Auburn of a top 4 seed. But I think Auburn can do better than that. You've got, Chris M. says Nelia Peralta has hit a 2-run dong, and Auburn is now up 5-4 on South Carolina Upstate, so that's good. They don't need to be losing to South Carolina Upstate, War Eagle 0008 jumping in to add a footnote onto what he said earlier. If he's a professional athlete being paid a lot of money, meaning Peyton Thorne, he should have enough say to influence the offense, and he would if he wasn't a beta. That's an interesting take. I have to kind of let that one marinate for a minute because it's kind of weird, but it might be right. We got to really start thinking a little bit. I've got to change my thinking. Listen, I've been a sports writer since 96. When I started, kids were amateurs, fully amateurs, and I treated them that way. These are kids, you know. If you're going to get paid $200,000 a year to be the quarterback or whatever, 150, you're not a kid anymore. You're an employee, and you're making more money than I am. So you should face more scrutiny, in my opinion. So I don't take it soft as much anymore. I mean, when I'm asking these kids questions these days, I ask harder questions, except for Eugene, because Eugene's a national treasure, and I love Eugene Asante. He's hilarious. I got a whole rant about this. Warrior Gold Week 0008. I don't necessarily think the guy's a beta, but I would agree with some of the other things you were saying. I'm not necessarily involved in this particular vertical, but some of the other stuff I was on board with. Whale Driver says, I care more about the baseball squad. I think that's probably a good choice at this point, my G. They're better. They're going to get in the NCAA tournament. The softball team's probably going to get in as well, but baseball team's better. I mean, baseball team's probably middle of the pack SEC team this year. Could be a little bit better than that. Alsop is starting to concern me a little bit because Alsop and Gonzalez, they need to get a little bit better. And then Chase Myers I like him, and I think he's going to be good for them. But at least they got a real rotation now, which is nice. They just need let's just see where they are. Butch seems to always get his teams playing better and better, so you don't necessarily see that from Mickey as much. StewPup74 says Thorne is not a beta. He's limited. I would agree with that. Kanuman is a big fan of Eugene Asante. I love Eugene Asante. He's a good football player, and he's also a good kid, fun kid who understands that life is fun, and he's having fun, and he's just the best of both worlds, I think. I don't know as though Auburn has had a kid I've enjoyed talking to more than Eugene. Probably D. Ford is the last one because I absolutely adore D. Ford. What a great story, and just wonderful to talk to. Let's see, 1997 JGT. That was when young Cassidy P was reading Success is a Choice by that turncoat. I don't even know what book that is, brother. I honestly don't. I don't read books. The last book I read was the Steve Jobs biography. How long ago was that? 10 years ago? 12 years ago? Raven says UConn is donging us right now. Yeah, I saw that Auburn's losing this second baseball game today. Yeah, I wrote my first story in 96, but I started doing a lot more writing in 97 for sure. That's when I kind of got going. I started covering Auburn in 98. Yeah, I think my first Auburn story was in September of 98. Patino's book, Success is a Choice. How could I not know that? That's another book I didn't read, which is pretty much every book that's ever been written. Kanuman says D. Ford is an awesome lady. She is cool. I've met her. I do like D. Ford, the woman. But D. Ford, the football player from St. Clair County, is also cool. And Whale Driver's a fan says Asante is he's damn entertaining to watch. He single-handedly won the Cal game. He was crazy. Crazy. He was so good in that game. He has some games where he's okay, and then he has some games when he's amazing. Chris M. giving us another update saying that Michaela Packer scores from second on a Rose Roach single. Auburn up 6-4, bottom of the third again against USC Upstate. Who I believe are green and white, right? Yes. Whale Driver says, yikes, that's a miserable time to start covering Auburn, or a great time to start covering Auburn because Auburn was at absolute rock bottom football-wise. But at the time, kind of top of the mountain basketball-wise. Right, that's when Chris Porter showed up. He showed up right when I did. That 99 Auburn team was kind of like the revelation. And then the 2000 Auburn team was when they were really supposed to have it going. And then Chris got disqualified and shit got kind of weird. But I feel very fortunate to have gotten in at Auburn when I did. I got to spend a lot of time covering Joe Champy, who's one of my favorites. Got to know Tommy from start to finish. And I know he's a political figure now. He's a polarizing political figure. I don't give a shit about that, but I count him as a friend. He's a guy that helped me learn a lot about sports reporting, so I was glad to cover him. Cliff is an interesting character, but I enjoyed covering him, and he had an assistant named Shannon Weaver, who's still a good friend of mine. And, I really like him. And I had a chance to cover CY Charlton Young, who's now an assistant at Mizzou. He was great. And a lot of the coaches that Tuberville had working for him, Don Dunn, Terry Price, Eddie Gran, Joe Panunzio, great guys. I was so lucky to be covering them when I did, because back in those days, man, coaches and reporters knew each other. You know, like even when Muschamp was here the second time, like you could still kind of hang out and talk to coaches a lot. It was kind of not necessarily encouraged, but it wasn't discouraged. Now it's kind of discouraged, and it's changed a lot. I mean, I know the coaches. I know a lot of them anyway, but like you almost have to kind of hide from. You have to sneak your way in there to talk to them. I don't know. I think they just make so much money now. Stu Pup said I had lunch with the Ellis family one time at Auburn. Nice people. Yeah, he is. He is nice. He's not a mean person at all. And his wife is very fastidious, but she's principled. And that's all I ask. Cassidy P says JGT has been in Auburn for some of the halcyon days of all sports. I feel very fortunate to have been covering Auburn from 98 until now. I've been a lot of cool stuff that has happened. I've met a lot of people who are very successful, and I've met a lot of people who failed spectacularly. Alan Green being chief among them, but I really like Alan Green too. Didn't do a great job as the AD, but he's a really good human being. He'd be in my top 5. A Whale Driver says Don Dunn was great to drink with. You need to get him on here as a guest. Don Dunn, love that guy. Him and Terry Price together, next door to each other on the coaching hallway is just, that's an hour right there. A great hour, a fun hour, a sunny hour. The best hour. I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. I'm going to bounce a little bit. Well, I'm going to bounce for sure right now. We've talked about a bunch of stuff here. Again, we got the game Tuesday night. I am going to do a drain after that game, even though it's an 8 o'clock tip. Our friends in the Eastern time zone probably won't even have an opportunity to hang out with us. But I'm going to do it anyway because we're just going to do it from here on out. Missouri, 8 o'clock on Tuesday. Then we'll do a bourbon show Thursday night, 8 o'clock as well. So, we'll see you guys then. Appreciate you guys being on the drain. I feel like a stranger says, what was the most fun to cover? Oh, wow. I mean, the best time I ever had covering Auburn probably would have been like when they went to the bowl game down in Florida when they played Penn State. I ended up hanging out with the Penn State reporters, and I really liked those guys. For whatever reason, I just really liked them. And there's the chief Penn State reporter at the time was a guy named David Jones, who writes for the Harrisburg paper, but it's really Philadelphia. He's like my mentor. He's been my mentor. He's about to retire now, but just having the opportunity to meet Dave and some of the other guys that cover Penn State was huge. Really, really enjoyed it. Spent a week down there with them and basically hung out with them the whole time, and it was great. Dave has been such an important part of my professional life, so that would be one. But we can talk more about this later. I'm going to wrap it up. Appreciate you guys, chatters, super chatters, auburnsports.com people, randos, guys, gals. Love you guys. Appreciate you being here to listen to me babble. I try to get you guys involved as much as possible, but sometimes you know how it goes. So anyway, love you guys. See you Tuesday night. Till then, keep your feet on the ground. Keep reaching for the stars. Make great decisions. Peace. Love you guys.